What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about 3 tips for quarterbacks to improve their arm strength. Okay, so this video is going to help you guys get more velocity, more distance on your throws, and just help you be a more consistent passer. So we're going to be talking about hip rotation, we're going to be talking about weight transfer and your base in the pocket, and then we're going to be talking about how quarterbacks should be taking their arm back into their motion. So I hope this video helps you guys out, but also, fellas, if you're a quarterback and you want to train with us this offseason, you want to get some work with myself and my staff of coaches, check out that very first link in the description below. We are traveling out to 6 different states across the U.S. for 2-day-long quarterback and wide receiver training camp. So we're going to be doing, it's a 2-day camp series, 4 hours each day, so it's 8 hours of training. We're coming out to Atlanta, Georgia, Columbus, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys are local to one of those 6 states and want to get some work in with us, check out that very first link in the description below. We would absolutely love to have you out to one of our camps. Let's get started with this video. So first thing I want to talk about is how your hips are the key to all arm strength, right? So quarterbacks, like you guys, throw a ton of throws, right? No matter what level you're at. You're in high school, you're playing 7-on-7 right now, you're in college ball, you're a quarterback in the NFL. You guys are doing hundreds and hundreds of throws sometimes when you go work with the team. And your arm will literally die on you if you're not using your hips correctly, and you will lack arm strength and power on the throw. And all that comes from your lower body. It comes from hip rotation and weight transfer, or what I like to call ground force and rotational force, right? So what does that exactly mean? So quarterbacks in the pocket, everybody I'm sure at one point or another has heard about hip rotation and how you want to drive with your hips. But you don't want to solely just think about, okay, I'm going to rotate with my hips, because your legs have to get involved. You have to turn that ground force into rotational force. Ground force, also known as, if you're familiar with my videos, weight transfer. You have to be able to transfer weight, because that natural weight transfer will bring your hips through. You don't want to be thinking about, okay, I'm just going to open up my hips, because if your legs aren't engaged, you're not going to get any power on the throw. So what do I mean by that? So when you guys are in a pre-throw position, you want to focus on keeping your weight back. You want to have it loaded on this back leg. And now you don't want to have like all your weight back there. You don't want to have like 95%, 90%. You want to have about 70, 75% shifted backwards. And so that transfer of your weight, that shift of the weight forward, is what will get your hips to go through. So you see how Brady, when he throws, Brady has a very, very quick stride. And we're going to talk about that later, how that weight transfer creates the stride, right? So you shifting weight, not pushing off your back foot, and that's another thing we're going to talk about, but you just literally taking that weight on your back quad, your back glute, however you want to think of it, and just shifting it to the front foot, that's what helps your hips rotate through. And you see how his back hip is coming through before the ball? That is the key position that we want to be into. So that hip rotation, fellas, is the key to arm strength, because you rotating more with your hips, you driving more with your back leg, not your back foot, your back leg, shifting the weight through, is how you get more rotation. And that rotation leads to arm strength, and that arm strength from your lower body leads to less pressure on your elbow and your shoulder, and you could be more consistent. So make sure, fellas, we are thinking about transferring my weight. The transfer of my weight creates the front stride. A lot of quarterbacks, what they do is the old phrase that everybody's been taught is, oh, step and throw, right? So what they'll do is they'll step, and then they try to bring the weight through. Hey, the weight transfer has to create the stride. The shift of weight from your back leg to the front leg is what creates the stride, because that's what gets your hips to go through first. And when your hips can go through before the shoulders go through, and the ball kind of chases your hip, as they call it, that's how we get torque, and that is how we get power. It's like hitting a baseball or hitting a golf ball. When you guys hit a baseball, that's the example that I feel like a lot of people relate well to, because I'm sure everybody's played baseball at one time or another. You don't want to just open up your shoulders and hit the ball. You keep your shoulders back and you pivot off that back foot and let your hips go through, and that's what brings the bat through. Just like a golf swing, right? Like, let's say he's a golfer right here. He's going to take the club back, and he's going to pivot off that foot to bring the club through and hit the ball. That's the same thing as playing quarterback. You want to take the ball back as you're transferring your weight, as you're shifting weight to create the front stride, and the hip rotation is what brings the football through. That's called being a rotational athlete, fellas. So let's play this thing again full speed. So first tip for quarterbacks to improve that arm strength, focus on weight transfer and letting those hips make the throw and rotate through. So great job by Brady, you just showing us this example and throwing a dart in the back of the end zone right there to Mike Evans. So now, second thing I want to talk about is we do not want to be pushers as quarterbacks. So what do I mean by that? And that has a lot to do with the weight transfer and where your back leg is located. So let's look at this throw from Kyler Murray. Obviously, for his size, he absolutely rips the ball. for his size. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure some guys probably have a little bit stronger arm than him, but a lot of those guys are 6'4", 6'5", like Josh Allen looking type quarterbacks. Kyler Murray's what, 5'9", and he rips that ball. So how is he even able to do that? He's smaller than every other quarterback. How is he able to do that? And it all has to do with that lower body mechanics, fellas. The weight transfer, the ground force. So second tip is be a weight transferer, a shifter, not a pusher. Be rotational. So that comes from where your back foot is located in the pocket. So a lot of quarterback coaches, hey, you want to drive off of that arch of your back foot. That is not what you want to do. You maybe want to have like your weight distributed on the arch, but not the inside arch. You see so many quarterbacks, what they'll have is they'll be in a stance and that knee is caved inward. So like their knee is shifted inward. And all that means is that your body weight is shifted forward. So when your body weight is shifted forward, your weight essentially has already transferred through. And we know that the weight transfer is what gets your hips to rotate through. So when you guys are back in the pocket and you're in this pre-throw position, you almost want to think of it like you're trying to get your knee like even with your pinky toe. Like when you guys do like you high school guys, like obviously all of you have been in the gym before and you've done squats. When you do squats, you don't just bend your knees and they cave inward, right? You sit back. You sit your butt down. You're trying to like not let your knees go inward. You're almost trying to push your knees outward. That's a powerful position that we want to try to be in. And that's the same position that we want to be in when I throw. I got to drop my butt down. I got to drop at the hips, not bend at the knees, so I could get to this clean position. Now, why do I need to get there? Because when you're there, you get so much more juice on the ball if you can transfer the weight from this position. So you see when Kyler goes to throw, he gets that front foot down and it's not, his back leg isn't extended like he's pushing off the arch. It looks like he's taking the weight right here and simply shifting it forward. And you see how much his hip is able to go through. About 90% of his weight is onto that front leg now. You see how his back knee is turning through. That is what we want to get to. A lot of quarterback coaches will say like, oh, you want to just pivot your back foot and keep your weight back. Just simply pivot your toes and keep your weight back and throw, and your hip will come open. It might come open, but all your weight stays backwards, and you have no drive on the dang ball. We have to get that drive going through. I have to transfer my weight through and not push. You're driving off the back quad. You are shifting the weight, not pushing off of your foot, not shifting your weight inside arch. You want to be rotational and be able to turn that back knee through on this thing to get those hips to rotate through. And we know from the first example that hips and weight transfer is the key to all arm strength. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So second tip, be a transfer, be a shifter, having your weight backwards, not weight on the inside arch of your foot with your weight shifted forward so I have nothing to transfer. We have to be 70-30 and finish 90 on the front leg, 10 on the back because I shifted my weight. I didn't push off the back foot and let it extend. Let's play this thing again one more time. Absolute dart here from Kyler Murray and a great example of him being rotational with that lower half. Now, obviously, the upper body mechanics tie into this, fellas, and that's what we're going to be talking about next. So, now, everybody, I want to get this point across. Everybody, everybody throws the football differently. So many quarterback coaches get so caught up in, my guys have to throw the same. You got to take the ball back like this. You have to get to a perfect L, when really that is unrealistic. Every single quarterback, every person for that matter, has a different body type, a different body makeup, like their arm is maybe a little bit longer than somebody else's. Some people are similar. Some people have similar builds, and that's great. But everybody's different, and everybody's going to throw the football differently. There's no two quarterbacks in the NFL that have the exact same throwing mechanics. You want to look for, like, the whole point of this channel, the whole point of all this is so you guys can study from some of the best in the world, right? Like, so you guys can see what the best guys in the world all have in common. How can I apply those things to my game? And that's what we're trying to do. So what all the best NFL quarterbacks do is they never lift the ball to 90 degrees. They always have some sort of backstroke, right? So what I mean by a backstroke, I mean some kind of separation of their hands right here. So you see how when Aaron Rodgers goes back with the ball, he has it loaded. The ball's not held up by his ear, right? That's a very old school thing to do. If you hold it a little bit higher than he does, that's totally fine. If you hold it a little bit lower, that's totally fine. You just need to get to some position before we get to a vertical 90 degrees. So a vertical 90 degrees is this position right here. right? Like right about here, vertical 90 degrees. And he's not even actually at a 90 degree. He has a more acute angle with his arm. But a lot of quarterbacks will get to that 90. Before you get to that vertical 90, you have to get to some kind of backstroke position. So he gets to like an L. Some quarterbacks are a little bit higher. Some quarterbacks are a little bit lower. Some quarterbacks' arm is a little bit longer. But we have to get to some kind of position. Because when you go back to this backstroke and get in this L, how does this tie into arm strength? Because your hip rotation needs to bring the arm up to 90. So many guys don't understand that. So many guys think that, oh, my arm has to move in a half circle. No, your arm gets to that L, and the hip drive is what brings it up. That's how your rotator cuff works, because you're rotating at your hips, so your arm and your shoulder have to rotate. So when you go back, you need some kind of backstroke as you are transferring weight. As that weight shift gets the front foot down, your arm needs to go back. So when you're rotating through, look at how his hips rotate through. When your hips rotate through, that's why the arm goes up to 90. The back hip should already be coming through when you get to this position. A lot of quarterbacks, what they'll do is, and again, that gives you that like whip of the motion. You go back and the hips bring you up to 90. That's how your arm speed gets faster. That's how you get to this right here, where your arm can go through it almost a half circle, but there's some speed to it, and the hip is going through before the ball does, like that clip we saw with Brady. Now, what a lot of quarterbacks will do, and this is why they dip the ball behind their head, this is why they have shoulder problems, is that they'll go straight to 90, then they rotate with their hips, and your arm has to work in two phases. So when you lift up to 90, that ball dips behind your head, because when the hips rotate through, your arm is going to rotate through again, and it's going to rotate back, and that puts a lot of stress on your arm. Chances are you'll probably lean out of it with your head because the ball is outside of your frame, and you're going to be inconsistent, and you won't have as much power. We do not want to push the ball. We want to have the ball loaded back in a backstroke, and the hip rotation will bring that thing right through. Let's watch the thing again full speed. This is a great example of Rodgers' backstroke and how you guys can get a little bit more twitchy with those throws. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you out. I hope it taught you a few things about throwing mechanics and just how you guys can get more velocity and pop on the ball and arm strength. And again, fellas, if you'd like to come out to one of our off-season camps, check out that very first link in the description below. We are coming out to Atlanta, Columbus, Chicago, Dallas, Nashville, and Los Angeles. 2-day camps, 4 hours each day. And honestly, fellas, the groups of quarterbacks are going to be probably 10 to 12 kids. So spots are already filling up pretty quick. A lot of our camps are almost already completely sold out. So check out that very first link in the description below if you'd like to come out and get some work in with us. We'd really love to have you out. I'll see you guys next time.